What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blondes Building Equity. I'm really excited today because we have a guest that actually Jess and I both grew up watching on TV. We have Tarek El Moussa. He's a TV personality, entrepreneur. He has his own real estate school called Homeschool, and he has done over 500 flips. Am I right?
Right over 800 as of now, yeah.
Oh my, I can't even keep up because he has so many flips. So thank you so much for coming on. We are actually in where you live in Newport today, so the studio's a little different, but I'm so excited. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, I mean, it just aged me for sure. So you used to watch my show with your parents like a decade ago. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
And that's how long I've been flipping houses on TV. So, you know, I started out in 2010, and over the last, decade or so, I've flipped close to 1,000 houses. I've got involved in commercial real estate. I'm filming multiple TV shows. So my life's changed a lot.
Wow. Even seeing you today, you guys, when we showed up to the studio, Tarek is on a Zoom webinar with his homeschool students. He's so involved.
Full of energy.
Crushed the whole day. You guys, it is night here. It's dark out. And this is when we had to get him on. So he is a busy guy, works his butt off. We were talking to your assistant and she's like, works so hard. So thank you for making the time out.
Absolutely.
So I kind of want to get started with a lot of our audience is really beginning flippers, beginning in the real estate space. So take us back to kind of how it all started for you.
Ooh, okay, the whole thing. So I actually started off as a real estate agent. You want me to tell you the story?
Yeah,
Okay,
I want to hear it all.
Man, this was back in 2002, and I was, kind of fresh out of high school, and I was lost. I was going to college, and I wasn't enjoying classes, and I worked for Papa John's Pizza. I delivered pizza, and then also I was selling knives for Cutco. I know you know Cutco.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
But that just shows you're a hustler. Were you door knocking for Cutco?
Yeah. Oh, yes,
okay.
I was. So I became a top selling Cutco rep like right away, and I was like prospecting, and I was selling kitchen knives. My average sale was like $300-400. I was at a 50% commission. So I thought I was rich. I was making like $600 a week. I thought I made it. And what happened was I lost my entire lead book. So I was a young kid. I wasn't organized, and I had everything in a paper binder. I lost my binder, and I literally put myself out of business. So I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? So I was actually at a Washington Mutual Bank in Cerritos, California. I don't even think Washington Mutual is around anymore. I think Chase bought them. But I was staring at the ATM and I was thinking, man, what am I going to do? I have no money. And I'll never forget. And this was a defining moment in my life. And I call a defining moment a moment in your life that changes the trajectory of your life. So I looked up to the right in that moment, and there was a crooked sign. And the sign says, Wise Old Owl Real Estate School. So I had a moment. I was like, well, I can sell knives. I can sell houses.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to get into real estate. So from the ATM, I walked across the parking lot and signed up for Wise Old Owl Real Estate. And that's how I got into real estate. So then I took all the courses, and back then it wasn't like it is today. So I had to sit in this like old brown and yellow office watching these ladies from the 1980s that worked for Century 21 with their gold jackets and their huge shoulder pads. They look like football players. It was torture, but I did it. Like I finished the whole thing. So now I'm like, I'm going to conquer the world. Like I'm young, I'm hungry, I'm motivated, I'm excited, right? So I get in the business. I get my cubicle. My manager says, okay, do an open house, go do this, and you're on your own. I'm like, okay. I didn't know what to do. So here's what I learned. You can be the most motivated, excited, hungry person in the world, but if you don't know what to do, you're never going to find success. So my first 6 months in the business completely struck out. I was so defeated, so disappointed, talking to my parents, man, thinking about going back to school, which I didn't want to go back to school.
We can relate so much.
Yeah.
For 6 months of selling real estate? Oh, goodness.
Rough.
And we're like, we
and
are
you're
so
door knocking every day. You're cold calling. You're getting yelled at every single day, and still no money.
Oh yeah, people don't get it. It is just brutal. So one day there was these two ladies in my office talking shit, to be honest, about how stupid real estate agents were for going to this guy's program named Mike Ferry, and how stupid people were for paying for real estate coaching. And that was the first time in my life, because I'm 20 years old at this point. It was the first time in my life that I learned that you can hire a coach in the adult world. Like I knew about baseball coaches, football coaches, hockey coach. Well, I didn't know you could have a business coach or a real estate coach. So when these ladies were saying how stupid it was, I was like eavesdropping, and I'm like, well, I need to go to this thing because I don't know what to do. So I ended up going to the Mike Ferry event. It was at a Buena Park Sequoia Athletic Club. And Mike Ferry, have you guys heard Mike Ferry speak?
Yeah. I watch all of his YouTube.
Man, this guy's a genius. This guy convinced me like I could do anything. He convinced me I was unstoppable. He convinced me I was going to be the most successful human alive. Like,
but look at you now. So
he inspired me, and he affected me in a way I'd never been affected. So at the end of that event, I ripped a yellow piece of paper. I wrote, my name is Tarek El Moussa. You don't know who I am today, but one day you will.
Aww.
And I handed him that note.
That's amazing.
A 20-year-old kid. And by the way, he knows who I am today.
Oh,
Okay.
Wow, there you go. You
So-
manifested that.
So this is where it gets a little dicey. So then I signed up for coaching. I was completely broke. Like no money. I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I went to move back home. My parents just got divorced. My mom rented out my bedroom. I had nowhere to go. So I was like, can I stay in the garage? She's like, the garage? I was like, yeah, the garage, like where the car parks. So I moved into my mom's garage. There was like spider webs and cockroaches and it was like a real garage. Like my dirt bike was in there, WD-40 cans, like it was a real garage.
What did you sleep on?
A cot. So I'm 20 years old, I'm broke, and I go all in and I put one-on-one coaching on my credit card. And it's $1,000 a month, and I have like $1.
A month?
Yeah,
Back then, $1,000 a month? Think about how much that would be today.
That's like $5,000 a month today.
Right.
Yeah. And I was like, well, I just put it on my credit card. So I did it, and here's what happened. It's just, I always say with real estate, you can make life-changing money really fast. So I signed up for coaching, and here's what happened. My coach told me about something called expired listings, which is a home that was on the market that didn't sell, and then you can go try to get that listing. So what did I do? I started going after expired listings, and I had a 90-day plan. And this was it. I gave myself 90 days to figure out real estate, or I'm going back to school. I did not want to go back to school. So I committed to working 6 days a week, and I had one rule. I wasn't allowed to leave the office until I had 50 conversations. Not calls made, 50 conversations, which equaled like 300 to 600 phone calls.
Yeah, 500 calls.
Close my eyes, open my eyes, 90 days later, I had put together $120,000 in real estate commissions within a 90-day period when I was 20 years old. Overnight, I'm a broke kid living in my mom's garage with cockroaches. The next month, I'm making $40,000 a month. So 90 days later, I ended up buying almost $1 million house in Orange County, California. So I'm right around my 21st birthday. I'm living in this like $1 million house. I had a Shark Tank, and it was like wild. All my neighbors thought I was a drug dealer because like all my buddies live like we just partied all the time. We were kids,
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like you can make life-changing money really fast if you know what to do.
Yeah.
So because that coach, really changed my life and really showed me the way. That's why I'm so passionate about coaching today, and that's why like my company Homeschooled, where we're teaching people how to invest in real estate, is just such a passion project for me because I know like with my knowledge, I have that gift that I can give to somebody else.
100%.
And I know I can't tell you how many people I've helped change their lives. And it's the most rewarding things. Watching someone go from 0 to 100 just by chasing their dreams and putting in the work. So, and that's why I love coaching.
And you can't get that in a normal college education. You know, you spend so much money going to college, you're in debt, and there's no flipping houses, real estate program. You can't get that. So it's like so many people are so concerned about these courses online, but genuinely, if you're going to spend that towards college, like I'm like, look back at college, I'm like, what a scam.
What would you say was the biggest thing that Mike Ferry taught you? Like, what were you doing differently in that 3 months? Was it just making more phone calls and having more conversations?
That's it.
What it
That was
was.
literally it.
The golden nugget.
And I was provided the tools. Like I literally went on MikeFerry.com and printed the script. It's still the same script today. Hey, Kinsey, my name is Tarek with Prudential Real Estate. I'm sure you figured out your home's come up on our computer as an expired listing. I'm calling to see when you plan on interviewing the right agent for the job of selling your home. Bam.
Bam.
That's the script.
You still know it. He still knows
I still
it.
know my Cutco script. Like that's the opening line, right? It's scripting and honestly not doing what everybody else was doing. Like I would, to this day, I look around when I go places and I already know I'm outworking everybody. I just know that. And like, I remember being in the real estate office, like working 12, 14-hour days, and I would watch my competition show up at 9, leave at 4, make flyers all day, drink coffee and crack jokes and never work. And I was like, that is exactly what I will never be. So I was a big believer of taking massive action. If I don't talk to 50 people, I'm not eating dinner.
Right.
So until I talk to 50, I'm staying at the office.
So you started to have success in real estate. Now, I've always wondered this. How did you get started with your TV show? Were you approached by somebody?
This is a better story.
How did it go?
Yeah, how does that happen?
All right,
Especially
I'll give you guys
time.
the real details here. All right. Got into real estate young, started making money fast. Of course, thought I was the smartest son of a bitch alive. Turns out I wasn't. So I scale teams, I bring people in. 2007 comes around and it crumbled me. I sold my $1 million house, my Cadillac Escalade, my BMW. BMW, my vacation. I sold everything I had, moved into a tiny little apartment. I couldn't even afford my car. I tried to trade in a Mercedes S500 into a Honda dealer. Apparently you can't roll 100 grand into 18.
How old are you at this point now? You're 20?
25.
25, okay.
25, 26. Yeah, 25, 26. So I didn't lose everything, but I was smart enough to know, like, I can't pay my bills anymore, so I sold everything.
Yeah.
So I still had good credit and all that. And then 2008 and 9 and 10, I mean, those years were rough. I mean, anyone that's in real estate today that wasn't in real estate back then, there's a lot about real estate they don't know. I never quit. I never ran from the business. I remember at one point in 2008, I went over to what is that restaurant? Fleming's Restaurant in Newport Beach, and I tried getting a job as a valet parker. This is after I'd made 40 grand plus a month at 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was. And they told me I wasn't qualified.
So why didn't you save that money and like maybe invest it or something? Or
I was 21.
Oh, okay.
What do you mean?
Like, why didn't you
I
buy
had
those?
21-year-old guy.
I had an Escalade. I was up in the club.
Why didn't you invest in real estate?
I was a kid. Listen, and I'm not the guy who's always like wants to make money to just be rich one day. Like I've always wanted to make money because I like shit. Like I like fancy cars.
Life.
I like private jets. Like I like nice vacations. I like things. Like that's one of the big things that motivates me. Like I like my watch, right?
Yeah.
Like I like things. So I like to spend money, which means I have to learn to earn a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm really hyper focused on earning. But now that I'm a little bit older, now I'm really, really focused on long-term investment. But I've already bought all the junk, the Ferraris and Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
I mean, going back, what I do today, no, like I don't even care about cars at all. Like I don't.
Yeah.
I don't. I had 6 cars 4 years ago, and they were all dead batteries in my garage. Like, never driving them. You know what I drove every day?
The upkeep just gets crazy.
I drove my white GMC truck. That's what I drove every day because it was my favorite car. Going back, would I change anything? No, because those are all experiences. We only got one life to live, and it was a fun experience. 2008, 9 kicked my ass, and I did a short sale transaction in 2009, 2010. It took me 11 months to do this deal. There was a first lien, a second lien, a third lien, an HOA lien, and an IRS lien. So lien on the lien on the lien. At the end of 11 months, finally did the transaction. I got a check for $7,000. I watched the investor hire a gardener to cut the lawn. I watched the investor hire a painter to paint the house, and I watched the investor hire a carpet company to replace the carpet, put it back on the market, made like $130,000.
I'm in the wrong business.
I had another defining moment in my life. Wait a minute. I found the house. I found the deal. I found the house. I found the client. I negotiated the deal. I did everything. I got $7,000. He made $130,000, and that was the exact moment I knew I was on the wrong side of the equation. So then, this is late 2009, early 2010. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a real estate investor. Like, that's it. In that exact moment, I said, I'm going to be an investor. So, of course, like, I call everybody I know. Everybody's laughing at, oh, it's not going to work. You're too young. You don't know what you're doing. It's speculative. It's too risky. Like, and every time someone would say that to me, I was like, more motivation. I'm going to prove you wrong. Like, that's what I use with negativity. I use it as fuel. I remember when I first got my real estate license at 20, I was at the Rouse grocery store and I was walking down the aisles and I saw my friend's parents from high school. You know, I knew them well. And they're like, we're just, shooting the shit talking. And he goes, so what are you up to nowadays? And I was like, I was excited. I was a kid. I was like, I just got my real estate license. And he starts laughing at me.
He's like, oh, cute.
He starts laughing at me. And then he goes, what do you think? You're going to make 6 figures? And I looked at him dead in the eyes and I said, no, I'm going to make 7.
7,
yeah, exactly. I said, I'm going to make 7. And guess what? I did. But so that's the thing. Like, you just got to ignore the noise and just keep going, right? Keep believing in yourself, chasing your dreams. And if you keep going and you build habits, no matter what, eventually you're going to get there.
So you went through the 2008 crash. What do you think that is in comparison to what? Because obviously we didn't really go through that. So what is that in comparison? Now we just got into real estate investing full time. And now we're like, is this like the 2008
is this the
crash?
2023 crash?
Yeah. What is it compared to what you went through?
Okay. So here is the biggest difference. Today in this country, people have more equity than they've ever had before. So is someone going to walk away from a house that's worth $700,000 and they owe $200,000? No. They have a lot of skin in the game. 2008, if someone's house was worth $500,000, they owed $700,000.
Yeah.
They had nothing to lose. I remember in 2008, people were throwing their house keys at me, like, take this thing. I don't want it.
Yeah.
It was like the Wild West. Like, nobody wanted their houses. They're like, just take it. I'm like, what am I going to do with it? Like, I don't know. And it's just different. So I do think we're going to see a correction, but it's for different reasons. And we don't have that pressure of all the houses and across the country foreclosing or going into short sale because we have more equity today than we've ever had. And then another interesting interesting statistic is I believe it's only 1% of mortgages in this country today have an interest rate of today's rate or higher. Meaning 99% of the households in this country, well, they refinance and they have lower interest rates.
3%, 4%, they're chilling. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why our inventory is so low. But as the economy gets worse and layoffs start to happen, instead of people foreclosing and not making payments, well, inventory is going to grow because they're going to sell their house trying to get that equity out.
Yeah.
And then once you get more inventory with higher interest rates, well, then you have decreased demand. That's where we're really going to see the prices start to drop.
So what are you doing now? How are you structuring your flipping business going into kind of like the correction?
Oh, I'm taking my licks on all the houses I bought when the rates were 2.5%. You know, I'm losing money on quite a few that I bought when the rates were low. I'm making money on quite a few that I've recently bought, and I'm trying to wash it all out. And I'm just looking forward to the next cycle of houses because I bought 90 flips. I think it was 90 flips first quarter of this year, and the rates doubled on me. So it's been a very challenging year. I mean, when your rates go from 2.5% to to 7%, I have $500,000 a month in mortgage payments. It's nerve wracking.
Yeah.
So
I thought we had a lot of interest payments. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So the interest payments are like $500 on the hard money loan. So that's $6 million a year just to hold the house.
Yeah.
So it can be a little bit overwhelming.
That's what we're trying to decide, if like you just walk away at some point and accept a lower offer, or you try to find a way to refi out of it. But how do you refi out of hard money into something conventional?
And that's where it's going to get really tricky because we have more investors today than we've ever had and more developers than we've ever had. And we're going to really see investors and developers in big trouble in 2023.
Yeah.
And that's why it's really important to rip off the Band-Aid. And when I say rip off the Band-Aid, take your losses now so you can make your wins later.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is prolong the inevitable and not put yourself in a position where you can win later because you're so focused on the past. So I'm a big believer, moving on, resetting. We lose 500 grand today. Well, we better make $1 million tomorrow.
Yeah.
So always think about what's next.
So what do you think would be next? Obviously, this could be the biggest opportunity for buying that we would see definitely in our generation, and so many people learned from 2007. And now people are aware that this could be a big opportunity, but that's still probably not for another, 12 months? So what are you going to do in 2023 during that downtime?
2023, I mean, there's still opportunity out there. Okay. Like right now, I'm loving commercial real estate, different markets across the country. You have different population growth. I mean, there's just so many different factors, right?
Okay.
Like flipping houses, I'm flipping in Southern California. Apartment buildings, like I'm buying a 376 unit in Northwest Arkansas. Did their prices triple in the last 2 years? No, they didn't, right? So it's more of a safer market. But my goal right now is to unload all the inventory that I have. And then going into next year, I'm focusing more on wholesaling. That way I'm still generating revenue, but I'm minimizing risk.
Do you have a team that does that for you?
Yeah, I have 7 full-time acquisitions and 2 dispositions.
Yeah, we've actually talked to a few of our big investor. Everybody's kind of switching over to the wholesaling, but how is that on the end without the immense amount of buyers?
They're still there right now. So eventually it's going to have to change. And that's the thing, like,
just always navigating.
Exactly. As a real estate investor, what I do today is going to be different than what I did yesterday. And what I do tomorrow is going to be different than what I do today. So it's always learning and changing and pivoting, right?
But how beautiful that we are in an industry that there's so many opportunities that you can have. You can go commercial, you can go flipping, you can go holding, you can Airbnb, there's so many different angles.
Commercial, do you mean like retail storefronts?
Yeah, well, the commercial that I'm focusing on is self-storage and multifamily.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so self-storage I really like and multifamily I really like. So those are like the 2 major asset classes that I focus on.
So when did you get into self-storage? I feel like I've heard about that from Investor Girl Britt.
Yeah.
Business partner.
So we just finished up our first self-storage deal. It's a development deal. We're building 202,000 square feet in Arizona. I got off a call today. We're buying a $12 million self-storage project in Arizona. So another one in Arizona. And then we're closing on the 376 unit. And then today we actually just sold a 54 unit. So yeah, I mean, I'm loving commercial real estate.
What's the zoning like for that? Is it like easy to get it approved to get storage?
Case by case. And that's why I hire the professionals. And here's my biggest note to people is you do not need to know everything. You need to know the people that know everything.
Yeah.
Who, not how.
Yeah, exactly. Who, not how. Like I do so many different things. I don't have the time to know everything, but I have to make sure I build the relationships with the people that can give me the answers. And that's what I do. I'm a master delegator.
And realize what you're good at, you know? And you have an amazing network. You have an amazing following on social media. I'm sure you're incredible at raising funds. So find the other people that are gonna handle the other side of the deal.
Yeah, and it helped me out. And that's actually, it was a gift that TV gave me, because prior to TV, I did everything myself. And then one day I'm on a screen and I can't work. So what do you do when you can't work? Well, someone has to do the work. And that's when I learned to delegate. That's when I learned to scale. And actually, back to the flipping, I never finished.
How you got your TV show.
We got to know. Did I forget, or you never said it?
I did that short sale transaction, and that was the moment I decided. So I finally found someone. He's a good friend of mine. His name is Pete DeBest, and he was 10 years older than me, and he was already a multimillionaire when I met him. And he was the only person I knew that had money, like literally. Then he was one of the last people I asked, and I asked him, and right away he goes, "Sure." I'm like, I said, "Say that again?" He's like, "Yeah, sure. Go find a deal. We'll buy it." And I was thinking, everybody else I asked that I grew up with, like my friends, parents, everybody said no.
Yeah.
And then there's one person where I knew it, but I didn't know him that well. Just like, yes, which just shows you the mindset of an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Always looking for opportunities. So this was on a Sunday I talked to him. Thursday, we're at the courthouse steps and we bought our very first flip. It was a condo in Santa Ana. Bought it for $115,000. Around that same time, I ended up going out to Las Vegas for another Mike Ferry real estate convention. And there's like 5,000 people in this room. So it's Vegas. I was younger. I didn't sleep. I was really hungover. So I was sitting in the very back of this thing, you know?
Yeah.
And my friend was a vice president of Coldwell Banker at the time. And 2 seats in the very front row opened up. It was the manager and a manager's wife. So the front row at these events, that's for the VIP, the people, the players, right? So he texts me. He's like, "Hey, you want to come sit in the front?" I'm like, "Heck yeah, I want to come to the front." And here's the interesting thing. The night before, Mike Ferry told us to go out and buy a dinner we couldn't afford. He told us to drink wine we couldn't afford. He told us to buy clothing we can't afford and live a life for one night that we can't afford, so we know what life could be like. And to this night, to this day, I'll never forget that night. So I bought a Zegna suit. It was 60% off. I got it for $800. So I'm just giving you the visual here. So I'm feeling good. We're looking sharp. That was me and my ex-wife, Christina. So we go sit in the front. Again, Vegas, no sleep, not feeling good. All of a sudden, I start feeling a little ill, and I start sweating, and I'm not feeling good, like I'm gonna pass out. And this guy comes running across the front row, and he hands me Advil, and he gives me a bottle of water. And I'm like, "I don't know you, but thank you." Like, he must have noticed I wasn't doing so good.
They're probably used to it at Vegas.
So at the break, all these like players in the front row start talking to me and my ex-wife. "Who are you? We haven't seen you before," and we're looking sharp. And I didn't want to say we're just peons from the back. You know, I was like, "Oh yeah, we've been around."
Yeah.
But that was my first time.
Fake until you make it.
Yeah, exactly. But that was my first time like networking with real players in the real estate industry. So then I asked him, I said, "So what do you do?" And he starts telling me how he makes $800,000 a year selling houses. I'm like, 800, like I couldn't even imagine making 800,000. It was such a big number, I thought, right? And he's like, "Well, I have a local TV show in Palm Springs, and I go to the grocery store and people recognize me." I'm like, "Okay, well, what does that do?" He goes, "Well, they know me." I'm like, "Okay, it's cool to be famous, but like, what does that do?" And he goes, "Well, then they buy and sell houses with me." And I was like, "Oh." And it all clicked. We leave Las Vegas. This must have been the next day. It's like 10 o'clock at night, and I'm still thinking about this conversation. So my ex-wife, Christina, she's walking up the stairs. We lived in a condo in San Clemente, California. I'll never forget, black yoga pants, 1 foot up the stairs. She looks over, she goes, "You coming to bed?" I said, "No." She goes, "What are you doing?" "I'm gonna get us a TV show." And then she looks at me last, because I always have these crazy ass ideas. She goes, "What are we gonna do a TV show about?" And then I was like, hold on. And I was thinking, and I was like, well, we just bought a house to flip, so why don't we flip houses on TV? And that's how I came up with Flip or Flop, in that exact moment on the fly. But here's the interesting thing about it. I had never flipped a house before. So I'm like, "Okay, well, let's. So she's like, "You're crazy," shook her head at me, walked upstairs. I literally jumped on Google and put Hollywood production companies, and they come up on the internet, and I just started emailing them what I want to do with some pictures, and then I went to bed. Next morning I woke up, they wrote back, they're like, "Send a home video, we like your stuff." Yeah, just like that. I'm like, wow, well, that was weird. So then I borrowed a camera from my friend, because I couldn't afford a camera yet, and I documented the very first flip. Everything was wrong. Like, I electrocuted myself, I burned my feet with acid, I painted the baseboards to the floor. Like, everything was wrong, except I worked like all day, every day. I did all the construction work, and I'm the worst at it. But we flipped the house, start to finish, in under 60 days, made $34,000. Done. So knocked it out of the park. Filmed it, they loved it. And then they did a 2-day professional shoot, which is called a sizzle. So it's 2 days of shooting, turns into like a 5-minute video. So we documented my second flip I ever did. So the home video was the first condo, and then the sizzle reel was the flip. They sent it out to all the networks. Nobody wanted it. Nobody was interested. Nobody bet. And I was like, man, I got so close. So anyways, kept going on with my life, you know. And about 9 months later, I got a call. I was golfing at Black Gold Golf Course in Yorba Linda, and it was the production company. And they're like, "You're not going to believe this, but HGTV wants to do a pilot."
Oh my God.
So that's when I got the call for the pilot. And
how old are you then now? You're 28 maybe?
I think I was 28,
okay.
28, 29. So then I'm excited. I find a deal. It's a house in La Habra, California. We film the pilot. And when the pilot's done, you know, the production company says, okay, well, if we do get picked up for a series, it's probably going to take a long time. But, you know, the odds of getting picked up are really slim. So,
don't get excited.
Don't get too excited. A week later, I get a call from the network saying they're sending a contract over and they want to do a house flipping show. Okay, 2 problems. Problem number 1, I don't know how to flip houses. And in this contract, it says I have to do 13 in 10 months. Okay? So problem number 1. Problem number 2, even if I could, where am I going to get all this money? Like, who's going to buy these houses?
Yeah, right?
I'm like, I'm a broke kid. Like, what do you mean?
In California, flipping houses.
I'm like, how am I going to do that? So then I was like looking at this contract and I had just got a lawyer at the time. And the funny thing about the lawyer, I'll never forget the email. He wanted a $3,000 retainer. And I wrote him back, will you do a payment plan?
Yeah.
He said yes. And he's still my lawyer to this day, one of my best friends in the world. So I said, well, let me ask you, if I sign this contract, I don't pull it off, like, what's the worst that can happen? He goes, well, they can sue you. So I looked around my apartment, on my finance couch, on my finance table, and I said, they can have it.
It's worth the risk.
Yes.
Let's do
so
it.
I signed that thing and I did whatever I had to do to make it happen. And here's how I made it happen. I worked so hard that I was getting such great deals. People had to give me money, like they wanted to, because I proved I can find deals. Mm-hmm. And I found deals because I worked my ass off. So this is what I did. I would work all day in the office. I'd get home because I was still selling real estate too. I used to get home about 8:30 at night, eat dinner 8:30 to 9. Between 9 and 10, I used to map out all the houses that were going to the auction the next day. And I would have to drive by them because I could only bid on vacant houses because I didn't have time for eviction. So I used to leave my house from about 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. and drive all of Southern California, probably about 6 hours a night on the road by myself, from Marietta, Temecula, Rialto, Fontana, West Covina, downtown LA, Long Beach, Sunset, like all the way, a big loop of all of SoCal. So I would do this overnight. I would identify 5 houses that were vacant. I'd go to the auction, super excited. My max bid would be like $300,000. I'd bid $300,000. The guy next to me would bid $310,000, and then the guy next to him would bid $350,000, and then another guy would bid $400,000. And I'm like, wait a minute, my max bid's $300,000. How are these people bidding $400,000?
Auctions are so hard. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm never gonna get a house. I'm competing against hedge funds, but I didn't know what else to do. So I knew this. Throughout my life, whenever I take massive action, eventually I get lucky. So I kept doing the same exact thing every single day, over and over and over again. And here's what happened. One day I bid on a house and nobody else bid. And I got my first house at the auction, or my second house at the auction. And then I learned if I just keep showing up and I'm prepared, someone else is gonna make a mistake and not bid, and I'm gonna get the house. And that's how I did it that first year.
Wow, this is incredible. And so when you guys continued on, obviously you and your ex-wife kind of did the whole thing. She was the designer, right? And you were so when did she kind of jump on board and really be like, oh, we're doing this?
You know, the one great thing about my ex-wife is she was always like my biggest supporter, and she was like a really big cheerleader. Like she would, I would work, 16-hour days sometimes. She would be with me. Maybe she's not like making the phone calls, but she's sitting next to me. So she was just always there, always supporting. And yeah, it was a lot of support.
Wow.
And that's what it takes. Anybody building a business, it is, and like the common theme that I saw throughout your whole story was you just make things happen.
Yeah.
And I think being an entrepreneur, whatever your business is, but especially in real estate, it's really difficult. But it's just like you're saying, like so many people would have gone to that first auction and said, this doesn't work, and given up. Yeah. And you decided to keep going. And when you were cold calling, you were doing 50 conversations a day. So it's like when you stick at something and you really commit all in, and it was like, the same with like content or anything that you're doing, make 3 videos a day if everybody else is doing 1, till one goes viral. You just have to be working harder than anyone else,
Do
you need all cash though for auctions?
For auctions, yes, you do.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just had you had someone that had already given you cash for that?
Pete had given me money, my initial investor.
Oh, nice.
Right. Yeah, because we tried to do that, but we use hard money. So we showed up and we're like, oh, you need cash? We don't have that.
You need
so cash. How do people do that
auction.
If they don't have cash?
You can't. So you need to get cashier's checks, and you have to actually buy in cash. So buying at the auctions is a completely different business model than what 99% of the flippers are doing. Like buying at the auction is like the old school way to flip houses, right? Like that is the old school way. And now there's so many different ways between marketing and technology and wholesaling. Yeah. The business has evolved quite a bit. But I haven't been back to the auctions in a long time, and I'll bet you opportunity's back.
You think so?
I think if it's not back yet. It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And what would you say was what's the biggest difference from your first show versus what you're doing now?
Got it. Okay, so Flip or Flop, brand new to house flipping, documented the process of me flipping houses. Literally, no idea what I'm doing, like learning as I go. Flipping 101, my other show, I'm teaching rookie flippers how to flip houses and how to get through those projects. And the newest show is the Flipping El Moussas. That's slated to air, I think, March of 2023. It's not only following the house, but it's following the business and it's following our lives.
Right.
So Flip or Flop was really focused on the project.
And now people get to know you a little bit more.
Yes, and then also now people get to know me a lot more. But on top of that, they get to see what it means to run a real estate operation. Because I talk about carrying costs, I talk about multiple projects, and it's a sneak peek behind the curtain of what house flipping really is.
And that I think is super useful because when you see HGTV, and I think all of us, and that's why you were saying that like the real estate investor space is so competitive now, because when you got started, you saw it in front of your eyes when you were an agent and you got the idea.
Yep.
Now we're in this place with social media or TV where you're like, oh, that looks fun. I'm going to be a real estate investor. So it's so, like there's just so much competition.
What do you think was like your hardest, like flip that you've ever done? Like, is there a flip where you're like, I've lost like 100,000, 200,000, just so we know?
Oh
like,
yeah, I lost 206,000 on a flip today.
Oh, okay, so that's normal, and you survive, and you're like,
but I mean, it's normal right now because I bought all these houses when the rates were 3%.
Right.
But that's the thing. The way I look at it, okay, the market changed. I bought these houses before the market changed, so I need to get rid of the old inventory, take my losses, bring in new inventory, bring in new revenue to offset the previous losses.
Right.
It's just math. You lose $1 million, you make $5 million. Well, how much did you make?
$4 million.
Yeah.
I'm not bitching about $4 million. Now, if you lose $1 million and you just stop, how much did you lose? You lost $1 million. And that's the thing.
Right.
You just always got to keep going.
But what would you recommend to people that don't have more money? Like, what if that losing that 100,000 puts their business out of business?
Wholesale all day long. Use wholesale or use other people's money.
Yeah.
When I started flipping houses, I didn't have any money.
Right.
I used other people's money, and they laughed at me when I asked for it, and I just kept asking. They thought I was crazy. Like literally, it was the Great Recession. I was driving a hoopty car. I just lost everything, and I'm like, hey, can I have $1 million? They're like, are you smoking crack? No. Like, no. And eventually I just kept asking and I found people. And
it's the best thing ever, even when you do have money, to use OPM, because, then you can do more deals and more deals. Leverage. And then you can compound, So it's like, even if you have money, everybody I've ever been mentored by, they're like, use other people's money.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But what about the carrying costs? Like when you use
and the
hard
construction
money.
Polls and things like that. So say you raise the gap.
Yeah, you raise the gap, or whatever lender you're working with, you go to a lender that they'll finance the purchase up to like 87 or 90%, and then they'll also finance the rehab.
But the rehab typically is a construction pull and they pay back after.
Yeah.
So imagine, I mean, maybe it's different for you. For our houses, it's like if we have a, $3 million house and we have a construction pull for $400,000 and they don't pay you back, and we have like $25,000 increments, but sometimes it piles up.
Yeah.
So we've had times where it's like $100,000, $200,000 on projects out that are being pulled. So did you raise that money in advance in preparation, or what do you typically do?
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, I have the capital, but like in the past, I mean, I was in positions sometimes where I was running out of money and I'm scrambling, like calling like my mom is like, hey mom, I need a $20,000 loan, like and then I might have had like 10 million in houses and I needed to borrow 20 grand.
That's
like you're redlining, right? Because you're always pressing, you're always pushing,
always pressing. It's an e-liquid game, right?
I know. I'm 100%, like, that does it get better than this? What would you say your biggest thing is that you've learned throughout this whole experience with your business, with real estate? Like, what's the one lesson you would pass on to your kids?
Ooh, the one lesson. Okay, I know this one. So I've learned this. So today, outside of the commercial portfolio, I own about 200 single-family residences across the country. So rental properties. And man, I've just learned so much through this portfolio. And I didn't really start buying these rentals until about like 5-6 years ago. And looking back, after all these fix and flips and all the active work it takes and all the taxes you pay, I could have done, a third of the deals, not sold any of them, and I probably would have made more money just because the market appreciated. So the biggest lesson I've learned going into the next cycle, I'm going to do everything humanly possible not to flip the properties, okay?
To hold them.
But here's an interesting thing. At the beginning, it takes money to buy rental properties, right? So I use flipping as a tool to make income to invest in real estate. So I tell people the reason I invest in real estate is so I can invest in real estate. So my active income is created through flipping so I can buy the long-term investments.
And do you have the whole tax strategy where you do the flipping then you cost seg at the end of the year? Are you rushing to buy some kind of?
Yeah, always. So, especially on the commercial properties, most people think, depreciation's over 39 and a half years, but you can do, as you just said, a cost segregation, bring that depreciation down, really show the total or inflate the cost of the actual structure. And then there's just major tax benefits that we're able to get in this country as real estate investors. And those tax benefits offset the income. And that's why people don't realize the power of real estate investing. I have investors that come in and partner with me on deals through TEM Capital, and they know nothing about depreciation. And then once they start doing deals with me, they're like, man, why has no one ever told me this? And that's the truth. It's like all of this, everybody should know this stuff.
That was like the light bulb moment for her and I. We were 20 years old, door knocking. We were a little real estate team, her and I together, trying to sell. And we tried to get this condo complex from this billionaire. And so we met him, and he said to us, he was like, oh, I own, $3 billion in real estate, and he lives in California. We're like, whoa, why do you live in California? So many taxes. He's like, I don't pay taxes. And that was the day for us. We were like, we got to be real estate investors. What are you talking about? You live in California, you don't pay taxes, and you're on your yacht, you're living your life. And so that was the light bulb moment for us that we were like, oh, we can't do that selling real estate.
No, exactly. It's the power of depreciation. Another thing I never really realized, right? So you're buying all these houses, and then one day you amass a portfolio of, say, $50 million. Well, what happens if the market appreciates 20%? The $50 million just went up to $60 million. You just made $10 million doing nothing. Other than the fact that you held an asset. Then that's where the real money is made. It's by holding real estate, letting it appreciate, leverage it, buy more, let it appreciate, leverage it, buy more. And it's just over and over again.
But it's learning to make those sacrifices when you're young, instead of...
you want it right away. You want to flip and just make that 150, 200,000.
Yeah, but you know what? You can do that too. And that's the thing. For me, I don't know. I'm a big believer you can make money in real estate fast. Are you going to know everything about real estate? Oh, hell no. But can someone go out and find a deal in their first 4 to 6 weeks? Yes. Are they going to know how to fix it? No. Are they going to know how to write a contract? No. Are they going to know how to sell it? No. But can they find a deal? Yes. And then if someone finds a deal, like my students at homeschool, if they go out there and find a deal and they don't know what to do, I'll partner with them.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. There's no barrier to entry in this business. If someone wants to do it, they can get started and they can really start making money.
And there's nothing better than, I think, being in the pressure of just making it happen. I think we read every single book. We went to all the schools, and it just took forever to go buy a property. And then our first deal, it was the crash course of a lifetime. Yeah. And it's that's
Still
what you
is.
need to do, dive in and just go do it. And that's how you're going to learn, because then all of a sudden every day something comes up and you have to figure it out, or you have, we like to get into escrow and then not have the money and have 14 days to find the money, because instead of being people are like, oh, I don't have the money, I haven't found an investor yet. I'm like, something about giving me 14 days of we're going to lose our EMD. I got to go find 500 grand. We go find it.
We're going to find it.
And we're up all night. We're making calls. We're calling everybody, people I've not talked to in 10 years. I'm
and that's it.
Hey, how are you?
and that's the hustle it takes, put yourself in a position where you can't fail. I'll tell you a quick story. So I told you when I was 20 years old, I was selling houses, and then I was also still going to college. I went to Cal State Fullerton. And after my long real estate days, this is when I first started going after expired listing. So I had dozens of thousands of dollars in my pipeline. I think it was $80,000 that I put together in 3 weeks. Or 3 weeks before, I didn't know how to make $100. And I was sitting in this class. It was called Geological Science of the Rocks in Canada, something like that. And I was sitting in this classroom, and I remember thinking, school or real estate. And then I'm like, what am I even doing here? I just in 3 weeks put together more money than this guy speaking up on the podium. So that was the moment I was like, burn the boats. I left my backpack, my books, my calculator, my Scantrons, my pencils, my pens, walked out of that classroom, and never went back. And the reason I left everything is because my parents weren't going to buy me books again. They weren't going to buy me a backpack again. They're not going to buy me a calculator again. So I went all in. I just left it all and I left and I never went back.
You know what I think is really inspiring about you? I feel like you've been through a lot publicly that you've kind of like talked about. Not only is investing in real estate so difficult, like it's the most stressful thing we've ever done in our entire lives, but you did that while also going through a bunch of personal things.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's inspiring because there's so many people that have limiting beliefs that are like, well, that person's lucky because they don't have this happening to them or this happening to them. And to see you going through like life-threatening things and still getting up every day and going on with your business, where do you pull from when you're in those moments?
I mean, I was both mentally and physically ill for, 5 to 6 years. Going into my first, I think it was my first week of shooting season 2 of Flip or Flop, I got an email from a viewer out of Texas who was a nurse, sent it to the production company saying, hey, there's a lump on his neck, he should get it checked out. And so I got it checked out. Long story short, most people know this. It turns out that I had thyroid cancer. And then through that, more testing happened. Then I found out I had testicular cancer. So now I'm like 30, 31 years old and I have 2 different cancers. I'll never forget the network calling me saying, hey, it's okay, we understand, we don't have to film. And I said, bullshit. You're gonna film me film me until I'm rolling into my surgery. Less than 10 days after my surgery, I was back on camera. I knew I was facing death. I also knew I had a young daughter and I knew I had a family to support. And I just told myself I was gonna just keep pushing and do whatever I could do just to get through it. And I got through it. But if you watch my show, people like they talk, they make a lot of comments about me. It's like, well, I gained like 60 pounds, when I went through the cancer because they took out my thyroid. So I went from 180 to 240. So then, so like a big difference. You watch season 2 on Flip or Flop, I look like the Kool-Aid man. But I had a good reason.
What does the thyroid do though when they...
That controls like your
like
hormones, your mood, your
Right,
energy.
okay.
It's right here in your neck and they cut it out. So I take synthetic medicines now. So then I had 2 surgeries. I went through the treatments and it beat me up pretty bad. And then I finally started to feel a little bit better. And then I hurt my back really bad. And my back injury was like the worst. I mean, so I went from 240 to 165 because I was taking like Vicodin and Percocet, like Tic Tacs. I'm talking
and you
like
just can't eat
10 to 12 a day because I was in so much pain. I couldn't put my socks on. I couldn't put my underwear on. I couldn't get dressed.
How'd you have this back injury? What happened?
It was just years of wear and tear, dirt biking, snowboarding, just doing dumb stuff. Yeah. Actually, one day on the golf course, I just went to pick up a golf ball.
Sometimes that's all it is.
Just literally pick it up. And all
it was
of a sudden,
the build up. All it took was...
as I'm reaching out, all of a sudden my whole body just loses it. My back gives out and I hit the ground. And I was having actually the round of my life.
Oh, that's the worst.
She's a big golfer.
The round of my life. Okay, so today if I go play golf, I'm going to shoot 100. This day, I was like, I think I was 4 over after 10. So the round of my life. So I kept playing. And
oh my gosh.
My back was hurt, but I'm like, this is the round of my life. I am not giving up. I got up to the next tee box, took a swing. From that moment till a couple years later, my life was ruined. So I hit the ground, couldn't get back up, crawled to my golf cart, took myself to the hospital. I had multiple slip discs, hitting my sciatica, and I dealt with that for a little over a year. And then I finally decided I needed to get surgery. So then I got the surgery. And then I started getting a little bit better. And then, me and my ex-wife, we separated. And
all very, very
next
public.
thing you know, I'm not living in my house and I'm living in different places.
You're like a
and
single
all my
dad.
shit's in my car and everything I have is in a laundry basket. And I'm thinking, how did I even get here? And I've been through some shit in my life, with the cancers and the back surgery.
And how was it for you to do it publicly? Sometimes, for us, mental health wise, there is some struggles that come with it when you have an opinion from people don't really see on the outside. Like she did a show and I've been public for years, and it's just the feedback. If you do read it or it does get to you, I'm sure you've been going at it for 10 years online.
Yeah, no, I mean, nowadays I'm like,
Yeah,
you don't give it. That's how I am at this point.
I don't give it. I don't even give a shit. People, right? I was like, okay, keep eating Cheetos in your mom's basement. That's how I respond.
Literally.
Come on, dude. Anyways, I don't even care. But my rock bottom during my separation after the cancers and everything, I was ready to give up, on life. I was.
Do you think all your health problems contributed to the divorce?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a lot of everything: TV, money, businesses, health,
and doing everything,
and growing up
person.
together and changing from a normal life to a famous life.
Yeah, it was just everything, and but going through the public divorce, like it was just rough because I'd go to the airport and I'm like in every single magazine cover and they're just saying like the most awful things about me. I'm like, this is bullshit.
It's not even true.
It's not even, like, how can they do this?
It should be illegal that they can print it, right?
Like, to this day, I read the craziest shit about me and I respond, if I actually did what you're saying I did, don't you think I'd be in jail?
Yeah.
Like, do you think I could still go on the Today Show? Do you think I could still have TV shows?
Yeah.
But people, they
want to make stuff
and
up.
it's like you with like a very, family-oriented HGTV. It's not even like just an out there show that would be dramatic and people will still find anything.
Yeah, they'll
to
find
pick
anything.
you apart, to tear you down. It's actually crazy. So that's amazing that you've been able to do it. And a lot of people don't see the hard things that come with living a public life.
Oh my God. It's been like, people have no idea. Like, just to figure out how to make like real money, it took me 10 years of working 100-hour weeks. Like, it was like, that's what I tell people. I said, it wasn't a month. It wasn't 2 months. It was 10 years knocking on thousands and thousands of doors and making hundreds of thousands of phone calls.
100%. And so anybody listening, I know right now is a really, really hard time. We definitely been getting that feedback. You guys know we've been feeling it. Don't give up, keep at it. It could take 5 years. It could take 10 years. It could take a year. You never know, but I promise it will never happen if you give up. So we got to keep at it. I really, really appreciate you coming on today. Is there any last things that you want to leave the audience with?
Yeah. So I have a book coming out next year.
Oh, nice.
And it's all about flipping your life. And I find that I am someone that has flipped their life just like a house. I think we all need a remodel every now and then. And I think we're all fixer-uppers at some point.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
We both need that.
Yeah. And, it took me a long time to realize that. Like, we always have to work on ourselves. So, take me, a guy a couple years ago that was so depressed and sad and miserable, he couldn't get out of bed. And today I'm thriving. I'm happy. I'm positive. I'm energetic.
You're having a baby boy soon.
Yes. My wife's giving birth in a couple weeks. I have a wife. Like, I never thought I'd have a wife,
Oh,
it's like,
and you guys look really happy.
Thank you. And like, honestly, I thought my life was over. And today I have my wife, I have my kids, she's pregnant, we have a new show, the businesses are thriving. So I'm just grateful. And I'm most excited outside of family is just to buy as much commercial real estate as possible. So if anyone's out there, they're an investor and they want to partner with me on deals, temcapital.co.
Wow, that's amazing. And he has his online education platform. If you guys are wondering where to start, how to get going. When we walked in today, you guys, he was having a coaching call, getting asked personal questions by the people in his school. So I can already tell you're super hands-on. We got to watch like 3 students ask questions and he was just super informative. So go ahead and check out that. Check out, what's your Instagram?
The Real Tarek El Moussa.
The Real Tarek El Moussa. Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was really great to meet you.
This was fun. Thank you.
Don't forget, you guys, to subscribe to our channel, follow us on Instagram, and leave us a comment on who you want to see next. See you guys next week. Yay.